Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Eddie Capparucci is certified as a licensed professional counselor by the state of Georgia and is certified in the treatment of sexual and pornography addiction. His most recent book, Going Deeper, Understanding How the Inner Child Impacts Your Sexual Addiction, The Road to Recovery Goes Through Your Childhood, provides a new and proven treatment method that will empower you to take control and finally manage your addiction. The key is understanding the road to recovery from a sex porn addiction goes through your childhood. Why? Because it's your inner child who is running the show. The inner child recovery process has proven successful with a large majority of clients in his counseling practice. It has changed the lives of many individuals who felt helpless and hopeless due to their addiction, and it can do the same for you. Endorsed by many leaders in the sex porn addiction field, the inner child recovery process is a game changer and can be the solution you have been seeking when it comes to breaking free from your sex and porn addictions. Listen in to learn more about Eddie's treatment process, why sex can consume people, the inner child work one must do, and how recovery is totally possible. A little bit more about Eddie. He has a private practice in Marietta, Georgia with his wife, Teri. He works with individuals who are dealing with the destructive aftermaths of sexual addiction, and among his many clients have been National Football League and Major League Baseball players, as well as TV personalities. Eddie is the creator of the Inner Child Recovery Process for the treatment of sexual and pornography addiction. You can learn more about how the inner child impacts sex porn addiction by visiting the website www.innerchild-sexaddiction.com, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Hey friend, want to be more comfortable while sitting on the therapy couch? I sure did, and went looking for pants and tops that were soft, wrinkle resistant, and would match just about anything I already had in my closet. And now Zaya Active makes up about 80% of my wardrobe. Would you like to learn more? Head over to my site, lisamustard.com, and click on the Activewear tab. And don't think this is just for women. They have men's and kids' clothes too, and our family is loving the quality, and I am loving the price tags. So head over to my site to check it all out. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard, and today's guest is Eddie Capparucci out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm so excited to have him here today. Welcome, Eddie, to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I got to tell everybody how you and I connected. Gosh, I think it was through LinkedIn. Is it through LinkedIn
Yes.
that we connected? Okay, cool. So for those of you out there who are looking to grow relationships, don't forget about the amazing LinkedIn. There's so many therapists that you can connect with and get to know. And then you and I had scheduled a recording, and then life happened, and here we are amidst COVID-19. So we are recording this, but I just wanted to check in, and we were chatting before we got started about how we're doing. And would you share what you share with me? Because I think that's fascinating, because I am hearing from a lot of therapists that they're feeling the same way. So would you mind sharing that again?
Yeah, it's interesting. I see about 30 to 35 people a week. Now, over the last couple of weeks, what we've done is we've moved into telecounseling, where we're dealing with whether it's by phone or most of them are video conferencing. And we were talking about it. I was saying, for some reason, this has been so exhausting for me. I don't understand. At the end of the day, I am literally dragging. Now, fortunately, being home, I don't have to drag too far before I can collapse on the couch or the bed. But it's just very different because usually, if I finish up a day of, in the office, I'm still rather energetic.
Yeah.
But right now, it has just been bleh.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And, we were just kind of shooting around some ideas as to why that is. And we talked about like the differences and being on video and camera and the nuances of, staying focused and building rapport. And then I think there's just like the whole idea of, the blue light coming from our screens is different and affects our bodies. And then I'm guessing maybe we're sitting a lot more.
That is definitely true. The one thing I do notice is because usually, in between, I'll get that 2-3 minute break. So I run to the restroom or I grab a cup of water. And here I got people who, they are like pinging in already as I'm trying to finish up the last session. So therefore, I am sometimes sitting 5, 6 people in a row before I even move.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what have you been doing? I'm just curious, like what have been your go-to self-care modes as we've been going through this?
Yeah, my self-care is one, my family.
Mm-hmm.
Home is very much a safe haven for me. And right now, living there is myself, my older son, who's 21, who's in college, and also my daughter, who's 30. She lives about 20 minutes away. So, we've been spending a lot of time together, and that's been a lot of fun. Plus, I have my 3 Labradors that, are just constantly around me.
Yeah.
My reading, and also, I've been busy doing what you and I are doing here today
Mhm.
in promoting the new book. There's been at
Yeah.
least 2 or 3, podcast or radio shows, television shows that I've been on. So there's been a lot of that going on too.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that because that is why you're here today to talk about your new book. But before you dive into that, can you just back up and share your story and how you decided to become a therapist? Because you have a very unique story.
Yes. All right. So we got to go way back, to the fact of when I was small, I was young. I was raised by a single mom and a couple older sisters. My father had died when I was 5. And my mom believed in Jesus Christ, but we did not grow up in a Christian home. However, she would send me off to church every Sunday by myself, and I would go. And there was something that I just found there. I don't know what it was. However, over time, I just, as most teenagers, just fell off.
Mm.
And so then throughout my, adult world, my adult life, stopping into church here and there occasionally just to listen to the service and throw my money in the collection pot and then leave.
Mm.
And what happened was about 24 years ago, I met a woman who was a very spiritual woman. She was raised a Southern Baptist. I was raised a Catholic. And, we got married. And as we got deeper into the church, I learned a lot of things that I never even realized. I mean, I remember sitting in a pew in a Presbyterian church and hearing, oh, it's all about a relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm like, I don't have no idea what this guy's talking about. This is bizarre to me.
Mm.
But it began me on my quest to learn more about Christianity. And with that, I spent years doing a lot of studying and reflecting on all of that. And so as I deepened my relationship with God, what happened was he came to me at one time. I heard loud and clear, and he said, hey, guess what? We're moving away from corporate America. I was an advertising and marketing executive for almost 25 years. He goes, we're not doing this anymore. He goes, I got something else for you. I'm like, no, I don't like this idea. This is not good. This wasn't part of the agreement in my getting close to you. But of course, none of that worked. I fought him for about 2 years and then finally gave in, surrendered. And I went on to become a Christian counselor. And I went back to school, got a master's in counseling degree, did all the state work that was required of it, and started my own practice back in 2011. And here we are now, 9 years later. And what's really interesting is that I started out just as a generalist.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw was, however, all these men coming into my office that were struggling with sex addiction and pornography addiction. And I was like, oh my gosh, these guys look like me 20 something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And before I did all my work. And so with that, I just moved over, got my certifications, and now I work exclusively in that area, working with men who are struggling with that. And my wife, who came into the practice later and joined me, she worked with their spouse and partners to help them deal with their betrayal.
Wow. What a story. Oh my gosh. What a
Yeah,
story. Yeah.
I would have never guessed it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm fascinated. I think that's just wonderful. And I'm so glad you're doing the work that you're doing because that's a topic that a lot of men, women, people don't really know where to turn, and there's not a lot of talk about it
No,
out
they're
there.
not,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And the church is very silent about it because the numbers regarding whether it's a believer or non-believer are similar.
Mhm.
We're seeing that many men who believe who are watching pornography or struggling with an addiction, as there are those who are non-believers. And the church being silent about it, which is sad. But even as a society right now, porn is so prevalent and it is so accessible. And we're seeing the average age of children being exposed is now gone down to 10.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're creating a whole society of little boys who are being taught it's okay to objectify little girls. And we're having little girls learn it's okay to be objectified.
Right.
And that's really, really sad.
It is. Yeah. Well, tell us more about your work and about your book and how this all kind of came to be for you.
Yeah. The name of the book is called Going Deeper: How the Inner Child Impacts Your Sexual Addiction. My approach to dealing with sex and pornography addiction is pretty different than most. And the reason being is because I utilize the inner child concept. See, I believe, Lisa, that it is our childhood pain points, what happened to us as children, adolescents, and teens that still impact us today. The problem is we're not aware of those pain points. We have, in many cases, repressed or suppressed them. And therefore, what's happening is a negative event occurs in our life today that has this emotional trigger that activates our inner kid. And that inner kid who's now feeling all this pain and torment, right? He wants only one thing: comfort. He wants comfort. And he learned a long time ago, you think about it, that, in most cases, when we look at men who struggle with a sexual addiction, they have a low emotional IQ. Okay? They can't really tell you how they feel other than the fact that they're angry or they're sad or they're happy or they're afraid. And if they could, even if they can identify what they really feel, they're afraid to express it. They can't be vulnerable and open. And worse yet is that if someone tries to be emotional with them, it raises their anxiety. So they learn to shut it down. They want to, hey, I'll fix your problem, or they'll minimize it. It's not that important. I don't know what you're worrying about. And what happened with these folks when they were younger, there was nobody there to help walk them through their emotional pain. So now a child left alone to try to deal with these hurts, okay, limited world experiences, right, and more emotionally based in their thinking than cognitively based, they come up with one solution to the pain that they're feeling. Don't think about it.
Right.
Okay. So how do I not think about it? I distract myself.
Right.
More TV, more fantasizing, more food, whatever it may be. But people who run into a sex addiction and pornography addiction, they've come across sex at some point and they're like, ooh, this is an amazing distraction.
Right.
And that's now the cycle that comes into play with what's going on here.
Oh, yes. I'm nodding my head and just going, thinking about clients I've had over the years. And you're honing in on everything. That took me probably 5 or so sessions to eventually get to. You just laid it all out right there. Wow. So tell us more about this book. Is this book for somebody, for the therapist, or is this for someone who's struggling with sex addiction or pornography addiction?
It is for all. It is
Okay.
for the therapist to where they can walk the client through, but it's also for those who are struggling as well as for their partners. Because see, what we're trying to do with this book, the basis of it is to understand the why question. Why has sex become a cornerstone in my life that has consumed me? Why? Why am I behaving the way I am? Why do I think the way I do? Why do I feel the way I do? And with that insight, when somebody can finally turn around and say, oh, now I know why sex seems to be so important to me. I can go back and I can correlate it to these emotional pain points. With that valuable information, they're now empowered. And therefore, now if they can say, oh, I can now make a better decision because I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But with the spouse or the partner, what it does for them, it gives empathy. Because, the first question that every spouse asks when they come in, they're sitting on the couch is, why?
Right.
Why did you do this? Why did you do this? And you get the same answer all the time. I don't know. I don't know. And once they do understand, for both the person who has done the betrayal as well as those who have been betrayed. It opens up a whole new avenue because now the spouse isn't just looking at their partner and saying, oh, you're just a pervert. Now they're looking saying, oh, you're really broken. I didn't realize this. And even for those who have done the betraying, they look at themselves and say, wow, I am broken. Okay, now how do I fix it?
Right.
That's an important thing. None of this these are not excuses. These are rationales. But then it becomes, how do I fix it?
Right. Hey guys, I want to tell you about a group I've created on Facebook. It's called the Talk Therapist Lounge, and it's a place where we talk therapists can find podcast guest opportunities. That's right. If you're a licensed talk therapist and you are looking to grow your reach and visibility, this group may be a place for you to start. I'm working to bring in podcast hosts who are wanting to interview licensed clinicians that can share their expertise and knowledge with their audiences. Why should you be a guest? That's a really good question. Let me tell you, people are crawling all over the internet, listening to podcasts and watching videos on mental health issues. My mission is to help spread the word about mental health treatment and help lower the stigma around mental health. And to do that, we need to get you guys out there sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom, and how you help people live their best lives. And it may help grow your brand and visibility and possibly help you gain new clients. I also share how to create a podcast guest one sheet and tips and ideas for getting yourself booked on shows. So will you come join us? Look for the Talk Therapist Lounge on Facebook. I hope to see you there. As the therapist, how do you help that client at that point? Is there, I know it's different for everybody, but what's general, the framework that you'd like to go with?
With the process that I have, the inner child recovery process, what I've done is I've identified 9 children. Okay. And these kids, they all have different pain points in their lives. And also what they have are core emotional triggers. These are things that happen today that will activate them. So for example, I'll just give you a couple. You take the first one I have is the bored child. So the bored child was usually raised in an environment that really gave very little positive interaction, among family members. And even if they were surrounded by people, they felt very isolated and alone. So they learn to entertain themselves, and they find it more comfortable to be alone than really to be with others. And at some point, though, they discover sex. And sex now provides this level of stimulation unlike anything they've ever felt before in their lives. And with that, whenever now as adults, they're feeling a sense of boredom, immediately they're going to use a compulsive reaction and they're going to go and seek out sex.
Gotcha.
The unnoticed child, okay, that's an individual who they never really felt like they belonged. They weren't chased by peers or by other family members. And so today, they still have this craving to belong for people. So they want to feel like people desire them. And therefore, with these folks, they could be happily married. They could be in a wonderful relationship where a wife is giving a lot of attention, but that inner child doesn't think it's going to last. They think it's going to go away. So now here comes this 1, 2, 3, whatever, how many people who are also starting to pay attention. And you're like a moth to a flame, moving to it. It's not that you desire it, and it's not that you even want to have anything from a sexual standpoint. What you're looking for is just the attention. He's looking to be validated that, oh, people desire me, people will chase me, and we do belong. And then with that, there's 7 other kids, and they all have, different backgrounds, and they have different core emotional triggers. Yeah. So what my clients need to do is to first identify which are the kids they resonate with. And in most cases, people resonate with anywhere between 3 and 5 of the kids. And then after that, then what we do is we'll drill down to say, okay, so what are the core emotional triggers that activate those kids, because each kid has different emotional triggers. Then the clients are told, all right, you now have these, and they have usually anywhere between 5 and 10. And they keep them, they memorize them, because see what we're trying to do, Lisa, we're trying to stay one step ahead of the addiction.
Right.
So that when an event occurs that is going to bring in an emotional trigger, now, because I'm mindful of this, because we're going to teach a lot of mindfulness in this whole process too, they're like, ooh, okay, wait a second. Yeah, that could make me feel like I'm stupid.
Right.
Feeling stupid is one of my things on my list. Ooh, I need to put up the yellow flags because my risk of acting out has increased.
Okay. I got it. I worked in substance abuse for a little bit, and it sounds like like you said, you're just trying to stay ahead of the trigger. You're trying to stay ahead of the feeling that triggers to the thought that then leads to the behavior. This is really cool, Eddie. I mean, you said nine kids?
Yes, there's 9. You want me to give you the names of the other ones?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. The unaffirmed child. Okay, that's a child who just feels like, he grew up in this circumstance, they grew up either with no praise or a great deal of criticism.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore they have a sense of low self-worth, but their quest is always seeking that affirmation and to be desired. Now, in many cases, what happens here, this is where you get the performance-based child. All right. They believe and that love has to be earned. That is what they've been taught at a very young age. The emotionally voided child, which is, a big one in the group, because I think I mentioned to you a moment ago, 9 out of 10 guys who come in, they have low emotional IQs.
Right.
Basically, they're emotionally immature. They don't know how to do relationships. So here they need to learn that emotional intimacy, which they wouldn't know if it hit them in the face, is something that is really critical in a relationship. See, they confuse physical intimacy with emotional intimacy. And that's not accurate. And that's why after a while, spouses start to feel used, because the only time, you touch me, you want to start having sex with me. And they're like, well, yeah, but that's the way I show you I love you. And like, well, there's other ways to show that you love. And they're like, how? I don't know, because they didn't have that role model. We have the lack of control child. That's the child who probably grew up in a very chaotic environment, who had a lot of different neglects or traumas that happened, and they didn't have control. So therefore, as they get older, they develop this mindset, this worldview that if I have control of circumstances, which include the people around me, bad things won't happen. Now, that's erroneous, but you have to remember, everything we're talking about here comes from the worldview of a child. So therefore, these folks are always pushing to try to be in control of something. So when an event happens that they have no control over, immediately they need to go distract and run away. And they use sex in that role.
Okay.
The entitled child is a very interesting one. And actually, he's the most dangerous of all of these kids. And when I say dangerous, you know what? We're trying to love on all these kids, okay? So we're not trying to vilify. But he's dangerous in the sense that he can get you to act out in very bad ways. I mean, the problem with the entitled child is they grew up feeling devalued as children. They had they felt like they lacked a voice and that their need didn't matter. So therefore, as they got older, what they did, they turned to sex as a reward. So therefore, their worldview is, I deserve this. And when they say, I deserve this, everyone else be damned. Nothing else matters. So that's why I said, that's why this kid is the most dangerous one, because he will go and act out in just defiance to all of it, and then come back and say, well, yeah, so you made me do it. Yeah, it's one of those kind of kids. So we have to be cautious with him. The last 3 are, 1, the inferior or weak child. This is the kid who grew up feeling that they weren't as good as everybody else. They didn't match up to their peers or their siblings. So therefore, they use sex to either, 1, feel empowered, or they use it to reinforce that sense of inferiority that they feel about themselves. The stressed child, again, somebody who grew up in a very anxious environment. Really interesting about these kids is that because they've dealt with stress at such an early age, that they've almost become desensitized to it. It's like they walk around and it's like, no, I have no stress. I can't tell you how many people have come into my office who've been this kid and they're like, no, I'm kind of laid back and mellow. And they are some of the most stressed people I've ever met. I mean, if you could jump into their body, you'd be like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with this person? So, but at some point they come to understand that sex soothes. And therefore, they use that as a distraction for any chaos that comes into their lives. And then finally, the last child is that one who has been early stimulated. So that means they've stumbled across porn or they saw people having sex at a very young age, or they were sexually abused. And with that, there becomes these irrational beliefs about both sex and themselves, in which they feel bad about themselves. They're a bad person and they feel dirty.
Yeah.
And that sex is dirty also. So therefore, they're probably in many cases, they use sex to punish themselves or to hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you the 9 in there. And what it does as people identify them is allows us to start to go deeper into what were those childhood pain points that, again, still haunt us today.
Wow. You've done some incredible work. This book sounds phenomenal. How do we get it? How do we get our hands on it?
It is available on almost every online retailer,
Okay.
including Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, books. It's available right now in paperback and Kindle, electronic version. The audio version is done, but there's been a delay in getting that out there to the public. We are waiting. I know there are many people who are waiting because they keep hounding me every week. Where's the audio? Where's the audio? Where's the audio? But personally, really, I believe people, and I know everybody learns differently, but I really encourage people to get the paperback because I think this is a book where I tell people, don't read it, experience it. You got to go in, you have to highlight, you have to take note, you have to read through it slowly, really absorb everything, take it all in, because the whole process, the inner child recovery process, is about, again, as I said before, insight. It is, why am I hardwired the way I am? So therefore, then I can make those changes I need to make.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, as a therapist, like I have to have the hard copy because I want to read it a couple times. I want to dog ear it. I want to highlight it. I want to be able to make copies, all that good stuff. So as you were talking about recovery rate, I was curious about what have you noticed as you've used this framework with your clients? What is the recovery rate for them?
You're going to be kind of shocked, but it's about 90%.
Oh,
it
my
is
gosh.
really high. And the reason it's high is because, once again, that's for the folks who are doing their work.
Of course.
Okay. If they're not doing their work, I don't count them into the success rate there. But the folks who do the work, it is over 90%. And the rationale is because, one, as I said before, they now understand why. Why had my life been this hell? And now understanding that, again, gives them the power to be able to make the right decision. Plus, they're also learning a lot more, not just about why they engage in bad and destructive sexual behaviors, but they're understanding and they're changing. Why do I have trouble engaging emotionally with people? Why do I have trouble being so much in my own head that I can't see outward to what are the wants, needs, and desires of other people? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to do a complete transformation of the man. It is not just, let's get rid of this sexual problem we have. Let's also make us better men. Let us set up our legacy in life. What do we want to be remembered for? And that means being able to fully engage with people, because these folks, and I know, having lived it myself, you're living life, but you're not really living life. There's a great part of life that is going unnoticed, unanswered for you, and you are cheating yourself and your loved ones. And now what we want to try to do is help them to bring more light into their world and remove some of that darkness.
Wow. I love how you said that. It's not just treat the symptoms, it's transform a life.
Yes,
Incredible. And I'm assuming as, these men come in and transform their lives, their marriages transform. And from there, it's a systemic thing. It just goes into so many different areas of their lives.
correct.
Yeah.
Because what we do, and you have to remember, once a wife discovers what has been going on,
Mhm.
they get to the point where they're saying, all right, let's move on. Let me forgive. They do their healing and all of that. They can't go back to where they were.
Right.
You can't go back to that old relationship. That relationship was broken, even though she'd done nothing to break it herself,
Mhm.
but it was broken. And therefore she needs to go somewhere new. It's really interesting. I hear all the time, guys were complaining and saying, I don't understand. You know what? I haven't looked at porn in 6 months and I've been, really good about it. But yet she's still angry and still upset with me. And I tell them, well, first it takes 12 to 24 months from the heal. But also, what other behaviors are they seeing from you? What
Mhm.
other behavior is she seeing? And they're like, well, I mean, are you more emotionally engaged? Do you put your phone down when you come in and don't pick it up again? Do you go and play with the kids? Do you offer suggestions on what we should do for date night? Do you do little surprises for her and things like that? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So if that's the case, then why should she believe that you're not looking at porn? Well,
Mhm.
because I'm not. And I told her, oh, okay. Well, before this all began, you were, and you told her you weren't. So again, why should she believe you?
Mhm.
The man is still the same man. He's still the same guy. All he's saying now is, I'm not looking at porn. Well, guess what? That's not enough. It's
Mhm.
not enough. She needs to see the new guy. And that new guy is the guy who's going to put his needs on the back burner. That means even if I walk in the door and I'm exhausted, but I know she's been in there all day with the kids, I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to get my second wind and I'm going to go in and do what I need to do.
Mhm.
That's what the new guy does versus, oh, well, I just can't deal with this. I'm going to go sit on the couch or I'm going to go play a video game for a while. She needs to see the man who takes responsibility. She needs to see the man who is now emotionally mature.
Right. Yes, she does. I'm telling you, she does. She wants to. And I think on some level, just because the symptoms of watching the porn have stopped, there's still more work to be done. And I love how you take it further and you work with them until I guess you reach an agreement on when he's ready to go. And that's really cool, Eddie. Really,
I
really
had
cool.
a woman reach out to me from I think Oklahoma yesterday. I mean, now that the book is out there and stuff, I
Mhm.
get people from all over the country who are emailing and texting and all of this, including that's 2 people from Australia the other couple weeks ago. But she was like, saying, oh, my husband is, he was a porn addict. He's not looking at porn any longer. But I'm just so afraid to believe. He said it's been a year now, but I'm just so afraid to believe him.
Yeah.
And, I go, what you need to do is see other things.
There you go. Right. See other things that that are healthy, that are different behaviors, that are different actions. I
Correct.
can understand that. Yeah. So how is that going for you? People reaching out. Do you only work one-on-one with people in Georgia or are you licensed to other states?
No, I'm not licensed in other states, so I only work with people here in Georgia.
Mhm.
However, on the website, www.innerchild-sexaddiction.com, again, innerchild-sexaddiction.com, there's an online course that is
Cool.
there. As you probably are well aware of, there are many parts of the country and throughout the world that don't have certified sex addiction specialists, and there's just not enough of us out there. So now this allows people to have all the resources to be able to not just go through the book, but also there's a video series. There's a 12-part video series where I walk them through every single component of this program. And so therefore with that, and then what I do with that is I will offer some, guidance along the way. I'll give like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I'll do a live Facebook chat, things like that to help people along the way.
Very cool. Do you have a open Facebook group for people to come and learn more about you, or is that more for your like coaching clients? And
that one is a closed group.
Okay.
For the people who are part of that.
Gotcha.
However, if they want to, they can reach me on Facebook. I believe it's at Kappa, EDCAPPA.
Okay.
So I'm there, and there's a lot of information I put up there also.
Okay, I'm going to go find you. We'll link all of this into the show notes for sure.
Okay.
This is great. What other social media platforms are you on? I know Facebook, LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Twitter. Actually, I'm also on Instagram and Pinterest.
You're everywhere.
But I just don't know what all those handles are.
It's okay. I'll find you. I have my ways. I'll find you, and I will make sure that everybody.
Most people do find me. All they have to do is Google and they'll find me. I'm everywhere. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you reached out months ago and we started chatting because I'm just fascinated by this book. I'm going to have to order it and study it myself. I'm hopeful that a lot of therapists out there will see value in it and decide to order it as well.
Yes. I'm actually looking right now. There's a few people have approached me about doing a CE training program on this. Haven't been thrilled by anybody I've seen thus far, but I think that's something that'll probably be coming later this year.
That's exciting. Yeah, I think you could definitely do that. Eddie, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you want to share before we end?
One, thank you for having me, but also for those who are out there who are struggling to really understand there is help. There is a way to escape. And I know there have been people who have tried numerous times to break free of pornography and other lust. But this inner child recovery concept, it works. I've seen it work. And I know because, again, it just goes deeper. And that's where you got the title from, Going Deeper. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's really amazing by all of it, too, the fact that once clients start it, they really enjoy it. I mean, they become like giddy kids as they continue to uncover things about themselves. So I just hope that they would, take that chance, even though you may have had failures in the past, to try something that I really believe can make a major impact in your life.
I love that. And I'm so glad you share that because I believe in your framework and I can definitely see how it would help. I'm thinking about clients over the years that, in the beginning I struggled with because I didn't understand the addiction. And, you live and you learn and you do better next time. And I mean, gosh, Eddie, I just want to get your book and give it to so many people. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing. And I can't wait for people to experience you and get a hold of your book. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.